All right, hey everybody. We are here with Catherine Wild. She is with Elysian Falls, her property, where she is building a really interesting structure, an Aircrete Dome. Catherine, you're currently outside of Brisbane, Australia, I understand?
About an hour north of Brisbane on the Sunshine Coast hinterland.
Wonderful. Well, I have snow outside my window right now, and it looks like you have a beautiful environment.
Yeah, we got the opposite going on here.
Yeah, so thanks so much for joining us. When I saw your project, I just thought it'd be really interesting to learn about kind of how you designed it, what you have in mind. I'd love to hear, I guess, just to start off with just an overview of your, what your property is about and what your vision is for this build.
Okay, well, my dream for the last 20 odd years is to create a sculpture park, a place where people can come and just immerse themselves in imagination and creativity and stepping outside the box and connecting with nature. So that's where I kind of started from with this place. The domes, I've always loved domes. From the get-go, I've lived in weird kind of houses, converted grain silos and tree houses and hexagon kind of shaped things. And when I discovered Aircrete, initially through Steve Vereen's home and you guys, I thought, right, this is the one. This is achievable for me, for a 50-year-old woman to build. Obviously, having a few kind of sculptory, crafty skills up my sleeve helps. And then all of the amazing kind of properties with Aircrete, with its insulation and termite press proof, all of that kind of stuff made it a winner for me. So I needed to get planning permission though. So rather than just go small, like what most people did, having to go through that process, I thought, I'm going to do this and spend all those dollars with the different reports and things, then I'm going to do it as big as I can. So it ended up being 4 domes, all interconnected, and the biggest one is 7 meters. So that's about 4.5 meters high at the peak. And starting to close off that dome now. So that's kind of progress where I'm at with the build. And getting the permission obviously was big. That took a little while to find an engineer.
Can I just ask you about that a little bit? Because that's something, that's a big topic for us. We're currently working with some engineers right now so that we can have some of our plans, just have it an easier process. But did you... I'm just curious, did the engineer make any design changes to what you wanted to do, or did you get it approved the way that you wanted?
The floor plan is approved as I wanted it to do. He has made a few little design changes around rebating the wall, so it's lower than the pad itself, and kind of throwbacks to traditional building. So he's wanted me to incorporate tie downs. So we've done a little bit of that and had to get tricky with that kind of.
So is that the tie downs? Is that rebar that goes into the foundation?
It's not. The wall? No, it's an external tie down that he's used. So basically, in between your sheets of your mesh that you use is some stripping that then is able to attach to your foundation and your wall. For me, it feels a little redundant because the mesh is doing that job, and it doesn't. And a dome shape doesn't have the same wind catch kind of potential as a standard build. But I've just done what I'm told, basically, to get this thing through. And other than that, no, not really. Pretty much gone up. I originally bought Steve's plans through you guys, and that's how I wrapped my head around things. Provided them to the engineer here. Like I said, he's made some small changes around rebating, just for much better waterproofing down the track, and then to incorporate these tie downs. That's pretty much it.
Yeah. So rebating, I don't know if that's a term that we use here. Can you explain what that is a little bit more?
So the wall where your dome sits, that round wall, pretty much that's about 3.5 centimeters lower than the flat pad where all of your living goes on, your flooring goes on. So your wall extends to, with your pads like this, your wall is extending down a little further before it joins on. That's
interesting.
It's just got a rebate in the edge. If there is any condensation issues, if there is any water manages to get into the brick itself, It's always going to land
Right.
lower than your floor.
Yeah. Nice. I like that design. That makes sense. And then besides that, you're using the fiberglass mesh and stucco layers. Yeah.
Now, following the formula you guys set.
It's one of the biggest questions we've been getting. So it's nice to hear.
I'm aware now of another engineer who's passed an Aircrete build in my area. And there's a few others starting to pop up around the country. I think once the first one got through, then it's a little less scary for the others to put their name to.
For sure.
I'm at the stage within the next month or two, the engineer will come back to sign off on the walls. And once he's done that, then good for everyone.
Yeah. That was going to be one of my other questions is how is he managing the inspection process? Because like, are you showing him the layers that you're doing?
So he came along for the footings and the slab pour. So he signs off on that stage, basically making sure I've done everything right. As it's such a unique build, there's not too many standard registered builders, that know what they're doing. They've kind of left it to me, but I'm not sure if you've been following the blog page. I'm photographing everything as I go through. And the engineer pops on site occasionally just to make sure that I'm doing what I say I'm doing. And he's fairly happy. He's actually seen some completed builds down near where he lives, and that's what gave him the confidence to sign off on this one.
Can you just kind of walk us through just a description of the building and maybe, how the space is going to be used and what your design thoughts were?
All right. I would have loved to have had a central dome and then others kind of coming off them. But my land is such is that it's on a hill. So to get what I wanted to do, it's all on one axis. It's all a straight line. So I've got 4 domes altogether. And 3 of them are at 4.8 meters on the floor diameter. Obviously, they kick out on the hemisphere of the dome. And 1 of them 7 meters. So the layout pretty much is bedroom, going into a bathroom and laundry dome, going into a larger kitchen, lounge room, living space dome, and following up with another bedroom on the side. They've all got oversized internal archways, which is another form that I've created where they join, just to be, like, I believe in overkill when it comes to building, so that arch form is another layer of strength where the 2 domes are meeting,
Yeah.
underneath.
How are you reinforcing the arch?
Everything's meshed. So before, it's double meshed, and then the walls come to it double meshed. And so in those joint spaces, really, there's so much meshing going on. By double mesh, I mean 1 layer of the fiberglass, but the 2 layers of the mesh glue. So everything's super strong where it meets. But all those oversized internal arch forms, internal doorways, they all line up. So when you're standing in one space, visually you're seeing all the way through to the end. And for a 90 square meter home, it feels massive. You've got those high ceilings and big 1.2 meter doorways going into different spaces, really long line views. And then big archways, big round archways looking out over the valley. There's just such an expansive feeling being in the space. So I'm very excited to have it wrap up. I've just got a mate, Darlene Leeson. I think you guys might know her. She's just arrived from Sacred Domes over in WA for the next month. So the big guns are here. This is I don't know if you can see it, Darlene's just rocked up here.
I came over there a couple of years ago to Hajar's place and to build on the domes at his house. Yeah.
So
that's so great.
Darlene's rocked up to help me, and with the 2 of us doing it this month, it's going to be massive change.
So that's what I was really curious to hear more about. So you've been doing this entire build yourself. Did you have help in the beginning with the foundation?
Yeah, the foundation was the builder. I've had, because of the engineering council and first one we believe in the Southern Hemisphere, I've really had to jump through hoops. So whereas I could have done that by myself, we got someone to do it, so it was all just easy to sign off,
Yeah.
And then my partner at the time helped make bricks. We were given a loan of an industrial Aircrete machine. So we pumped out about 3,500 bricks and then started the build together. And we weren't very long into it when realised it wasn't for her. So pretty much for the last almost 2 years, 18 months, a bit longer, it's just been me doing the build.
Okay.
So it's achievable if you've not got a deadline. You just potter away. Every brick counts, one layer at a time. All of those little cliches, but it's true. It gets you there in the end. And I've worked out processes where it's easy. My mold forms are easy to pump out for one person, and I've got all the processes kind of down pat, so I can just get it done one person. But now I've got a deadline. Now I've won this competition.
Yeah, that was going to be the next thing I wanted to ask you about, because I saw that you won an Airbnb competition.
Yes.
And I'd love to hear that story.
All right. So it's called the Oh My God Fund. So what they are doing is they're giving 100 people around the world $100,000 to build a kind of crazy, sustainable, off-the-wall, out-of-the-box kind of stay for people. So I was told about it by a friend of mine and thought, when I saw the criteria, I thought, this is mine, This has got my dome all over it. And quite an involved submission process. It took quite a few months and lots of new skills I had to learn, mocking things up and video-wise and stuff. But I just knew it was going to be, so, and it was, obviously. So, I won that. And I've got to meet some strict milestones to keep getting the installments. And the criteria, the end criteria is that from 1st of August, it's meant to be B&Bable. So and B&Bable exclusively through them for the next 12 months. So whereas it was going to be my home to move into, now everyone will get a little chance to stay in the Aircrete home for a year or so.
That's exciting.
And then it will be my home.
You'll get to make some money on it as well. And I'm guessing it's going to be a fairly attractive place to stay.
Exactly. And the full force of Airbnb publicity behind it. It's a wonderful opportunity. I'm so grateful. But it certainly has ramped up the pressure. But obviously the money helps. So whereas I would have recycled windows and stuff like that, now I've got some beautiful arch forms going in there. I'm going to pay for those windows. I've got some landscaping work that can get done because of it. Ethically, I believe in recycling wherever possible, so that will still be the case. But I've been able to buy big skylights, not have to make them. But I've learnt stained glass through the process as well, so there'll be lots of little stained glass elements going on. I'm so excited, beautiful. Mate. It's going to be beautiful when it's finished.
Before you started this, did you work on any other builds, or you went to some local workshops in Australia?
Do you mean dome builds or builds in general?
Yeah. Like, how did you learn this initially to get started?
So initially, I actually was in touch with you guys, and we were talking about doing a workshop here, and that was before the whole pandemic, however you want to look at it, happened. So, and then that started the whole process of me trying to find approval too, because I couldn't do what I wanted to do with you guys unless I had that. So I got plans drawn up for what I wanted and started trying to find that engineer, and just hit brick wall after brick wall. No pun intended. It just wasn't happening. And then we couldn't get to you. You couldn't get to us. And I just saw these guys, Aircrete Domes Australia, advertise doing courses here. So booked into their very first course in June 2020, I think it was. And that's where I met Darlene and all of these other amazing people that are really pushing Aircrete forward in Australia. So I did that 2-day course, very much based on the principles you teach in yours, because the woman who's running it, Kathy Coles, she came and did the first workshop you guys ever ran and took it back to Australia. And came home, and the very next day started making forms and molds and recycling old deck furniture into round arch forms. And, just ran with it and kept trying to find the engineer. And eventually we did. And
nice.
And then it started from there. But literally, I did a 2-day course. I learned how to make bricks. I learned how to lay bricks. And I leapt off the cliff knowing that the rest would follow.
But
I don't know,
really
brave, insane, somewhere in the middle. I think it's, you've just got to trust sometimes.
For sure, but it is doable. I mean, that's what I love about the building system and the methodology. It is doable.
Oh, it's very, especially if you're a little bit crafty. And obviously being a sculptor, positive, negative space, all of that kind of, I just get how things go together. But it's a mental game. If you feeling tired, you obviously you do have to have balance and take a break. But you've got to be strong in your head really just to keep going back for such a big build. A smaller one, a smaller dome, a single dome. If I was, that's a lot easier. If I was to give any advice to anyone starting out on this and they're going to be doing it themselves or just as a couple, I would say break it down and start with one, knowing that you could then complete that and feel like you've achieved something rather than it being a never-ending marathon. And then move on to the next one, because they can be very modular and so easy to add on to. And so start with something that you can start and finish within a certain time frame, and then take a break, and then do the next one.
I'm curious to know, what is your plan for finishing the interior and exterior?
I'm normally a perfectionist, so in the past. So in the past, I would have tried to get perfect, smooth lines, all that. For my sanity's sake, I'm going for a textured kind of stucco look finish. We've got a waterproofing membrane product that we're going to apply over that surface once it's done, and then the paint will go on over that. But I'm going to work with texture. Texture is my friend.
It's your friend.
It's my friend. Yeah. Nice kind of pale olivey green colour for the dome on the outside. Nice. I've worked out a way to catch water reasonably efficiently through low channels that then feed into my tanks and things like that. So all that's going to go on the outside. On the inside, it'll be rendered. I want to use some magnesium in that render just to get a different frequency going on, a little less of the concrete ionization happening. Floating floor, tiles in different areas, a lot of wood benches and iron and glass, mix up the textures so it's not so overwhelmingly concrete. And bring in all the little arty fun stuff at that stage. Yeah.
What is the waterproofing membrane product that you're going to be using there?
There are a few different kinds depending on where you go through. Through Linden's, there's a rock coat and I think a super coat product that they use. Linden's is one of our concrete suppliers here.
Gotcha.
And basically it's an exterior grade landscaping membrane. There is a different one you can buy through Bunnings, which is our kind of super hardware store here.
But it's like a paint.
It's
like
a paint.
You paint it on?
Quite rubbery, thick paint. It's paintable. So once it's on, you can paint over it. And waterproofing is a topic of much interest and contention amongst the aircrate community, I think. There's so many different ways you can try. And I've been ear out trying to listen to what everyone's been doing. I've heard of about 3 or 4 different ways people have tried. And ultimately, there are issues, especially where from the dome wall meets arches or around windows, or ultimately there's issues. There's additives you can put in the cement or in the render coats that are meant to make it fully waterproof. Ultimately, they don't. For whatever reason, for the experiences that I've been privy to.
Yeah.
This is the only one where people just don't have issues. So
it sounds very similar to what we typically use.
Yeah. So I had to put that in for the engineer for the council approval. So I'm following that to a T, and that's what I'll do. But I've heard, I had a professor of architecture come to visit me. Bart Van Buren is his name. He's done an amazing kind of glass dome on one of the lakes over in Holland. And he was telling me about making the dome wall living. So obviously you get all that waterproofing going on, and then you add a small layer of Aircrete itself over that, which becomes a perfect media for low-rooted mosses and all of that kind of thing. And you could actually make a completely living dome that's waterproof. And that appeals to me. But I can't do it. I can't do it on this one. I've got to follow the rules for council.
We have a property in Hawaii that was sort of semi-abandoned because of the volcano there a few years ago. And so there was some half-built domes that they're actually getting finished now, but they sat for probably 5 or 6 years. There also was a sculpture there that somebody made. And there's been a lot of moss that have grown into the Aircrete, and there's little plants that are actually growing right out of the Aircrete. And what's amazing about the Aircrete is it doesn't crack. You know, like if you have a concrete and you see plants growing out of it, the roots of the plant will actually crack the concrete and break it apart. But with the Aircrete, the roots actually can find their way through it, and they can grow on it without ruining it. It's really amazing,
isn't it? I intend to incorporate some of that in some of the big sculptures I do on the property later on, and have these.
That's so neat.
You can imagine this massive hand coming out, and it's all moss and plants and.
Great. Well, we'll be following along with your project. Definitely anxious to see how things are. Maybe we'll get you on another web meeting. And get a tour of the finished product once it's done. Yeah,
for sure. And there's so much exciting stuff happening here in Australia. I guess I'm just concentrating on my thing, but out of that first workshop we did in 2020, there are so many people taking this in amazing directions and really pushing the boundaries with blow forms and like all the different methods of construction and shapes and skylights, and like the creativity and intelligence of these people is astounding and amazing to be part of that little circle. The Dome community rock.
Well, I look forward to learning more, and I would love to get in touch with some more of the people there and kind of see more what people are doing. So
that's all right. I'll send you their details. I'm sure they'd love to share.
Yeah, I think that'd be a lot of fun. So
all right. Lovely.
Well, Catherine, thanks so much. Yeah, thank you so much for your time, and really good luck finishing your project. And we'll be excited to talk to you soon.
Yeah, my pleasure. Talk to you soon.